Keller wants out. Aiden Hill used to be a Coyote, and we actually think we're important. All that and more on today's Locked On Coyotes.
Your Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn Leonio. That's Matthew Jacobson. On today's episode of Locked On Coyotes, so I might sound a little bit down today. I have a migraine. I'm going through just some weird emotional stuff, Matthew. Thinking, this show is growing, but I realize other media organizations, other media doesn't care about us.
Listen, Robyn. I'm gonna stop you right there. Right? I'm just gonna put the brakes on it. I know you got your fancy journalism degree. All right. I know people know who you are, and I get it. You got the undeniable rising star that is the AZ Sports Guy on your show, but we are not important whatsoever. We are literally like to steal a joke from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. It goes like the top dogs, the dirt, the worms inside the dirt, the stool that is underneath the worms inside the dirt. I'm butchering the joke, by the way. And then us. Like, you're a little higher up because, like, you got the journalism degree. You've been doing this specific show for a while. Nice network show where, like, I started off literally in a closet with a phone and a notepad. So, like, I need you to understand we're not important. We're never going to be. It's fine. That's why we're hosting Locked On. That's all they could afford was us two to bring on the show.
Hey, but I still think regardless though, I feel like, hey, Locked On should have a good name to it. I feel like people do know who we are. I think, and we are getting more listeners than now than we've ever had before on the Locked On show. And by the way, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better in just thinking about this because I almost forgot about this, Matthew. Another reason why I'm upset because I wanted to do a celebration for it, but I didn't. The Locked On Coyotes podcast earlier this week just surpassed 500 episodes, and I didn't say a damn thing about it.
Oh, you were saying that before I joined, like when I was first. I remember. Look, I'm not gonna lie, days are blending together. I don't have enough time in the day to scratch my own butt. Like I 500. Woo! The show's gone downhill since I've joined, but we've had more hot takes. So we will take that.
Yeah, I beg to differ. Again, look, our numbers show otherwise, but
that's also because the whole arena thing, and people were like trying to dance in the grave. Luckily, you had me to sit there and just be like, y'all are pathetic, and then it gets them angry, and you get more comments and engagements, and you get back in the algorithm. But look, people do know like the Locked On brand, and I'm going to be very generic about this because there is no disrespect intended towards anyone else. We have the same colors as Locked On Suns, all right? I've checked out a couple other Locked On shows, and the main competing show in this market to me is just more appealing than some of these, to where it's like I feel like the general audience is just going to go with this over this. So let's just enjoy what we got, increase the quality as much as we possibly can, and have some fun, because apparently we're not going to have jobs at the end of the year. You'll go back to San Jose or something. I'll just be here like I'm a washed up has-been that never was.
Bold to think I'd be going back to San Jose. I don't think I could afford that. Oh.
Can anyone? I have a friend that left to go to the Midwest because it was just cheaper.
I'd be splitting a studio 3 ways, but
Anyway, all that out of the way, and just a disclosure. All right, the fellow Locked On Arizona people, Suns, I was checking out today. solid show. Like that's not a knock on you. I'm just saying, like what I'm assuming the perspective or opinion might be. Let's get into the Clayton Keller stuff. Now that we got a little bit of ourselves bashing out of the way, some light fun to try to raise up the mood a little bit. Let's bring it right back down, then back up, because we are a roller coaster ride on this show. And Clayton Keller, he's requesting a trade. No, but we have the 32 Thoughts podcast, and it was also essentially said whenever Keller's agents were on a different show, where like, hey, we just want clarity. We already knew that, and reportedly he's giving them about 45 days to have said clarity, said plan. That does not mean the arena deal must be signed, but it means that you can't walk into a meeting whenever the meeting took place, I think 3 days ago at this point. So 40 days from now, 41, 42 days from now, and say, well, we're still kind of thinking about this. Like there has to be an actual plan, and this is the route we're going and exploring. And then obviously you already have the, Clayton Keller would get a haul and this and that, and which he would, right? And then they've also had calls on Krause. Logical. That I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. And as much as fans love Lawson Krause, if you get enough interest and get enough of an inflated price, I am just saying, I don't mind. I'm kidding. But if you're gonna give me like Connor McJesus 1-for-1, I'll do it. Unfortunately.
I mean, you can't. That's something you couldn't say no to, because Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. You just can't just.
How many Oilers fans do you think I just angered? Like, let's say like they're a casual, like, I'll check out this Locked On Coyotes, and like the sarcasm doesn't translate for some reason, and it's like, what do you mean you're gonna get Connor McDavid?
Yeah. Plus, I'm sure there are some listeners to this show who are heavy Clayton Keller stans who will just like, no, don't get rid of.
Which also, like, you're not going to.
No.
And like one person was like, there's a Leafs fan. I think I alluded to it in an episode or two ago that was like, oh, for Austin Matthews, if we can get like Clayton Keller. And I think on one of them, Lawson Krause was involved, but Lawson Krause, those talks finally died down a little bit after the trade deadline. But like they wanted like Keller and something else, and I'm like, it makes zero sense for the Coyotes to trade Keller if you're acquiring Matthews. Which, why would you waste the assets when you could just have your brand new Phoenix Suns owner give him a nice big payday on the open market and keep all your assets? But we'll get into that a little bit later. You see, I know how to tease you a little bit. Why would you waste the assets? And also, if you're going to trade for AM34, you're getting him for Keller. You're not trading Keller to get him, because then who the hell is he going to pass to?
That's true. What would the Maple Leafs franchise look like without Austin Matthews? Like, I mean, yeah, there's some. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some great players on the Toronto Maple Leafs, but Austin Matthews is Austin Matthews. Maybe we're biased because he is an Arizona-grown player, but you know what? I don't care.
But you know what we do care about? This episode's sponsor. Let's get right into the ad read, Robyn. God, I'm so good. You guys can't afford me. Let's talk about eBay Motors. So, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know what parts will fit or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop with eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guarantee Fit, only available for U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I mainly use eBay for trading cards, but you can use it for cars.
So let's continue on this episode. And Matt, I think that based on what you said earlier, on getting that new money is a perfect way to segue into a second segment, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the conversation has increased a lot more. We talked about the Arizona Coyotes with potential to move to downtown Phoenix, but there was a massive contingency for that. Is they can't just be a partnership, because the NHL wants the teams to own the arenas. The only way to own the arenas is if the team that owns the team owns the. You know how it goes. And Alex Morello doesn't want to sell the team. But what if somehow a sale were to be forced because Matt Ishbia was interested and he had the money to do it and was able to move them in to the Footprint Center?
First off, let's just say, good reporting by Craig, Petey, and Leah to give us all this information in the Valley to be like, there is no interest for the NHL team to be a tenant. Now, I still stand by my opinion that there are more revenue streams now. I still do think the right deal could be reached. But if that source is coming directly from a contact within the NHL saying we have no interest, that is what it is. And despite my difference of opinion, that's the information we have to go on, and that is most likely going to be the internal mindset. So we're just going to treat that as fact and move on with it. So we do appreciate that information coming out there. So Marula doesn't want to sell. They're not for sale right now, whatever. And I've made it very clear of my apprehension towards this current management after the handling of the election. And I was livid, like the next day, like that podcast that like you only spent X amount of money that was like $250K. I don't want to get mad again. We're on the happy stuff. Don't want to get mad again. But like that made me adopt the mindset of you have to earn my trust back. That doesn't mean it's impossible. Doesn't mean you can't do it. But I am officially on that skeptical side. So I am officially pro force the team to sell, because if there is no solid plan, and while there is no timetable that's been confirmed and reported by Craig, literally, it can't go on forever. And most people tend to agree, logically, October should be the hard date. Or that sounds like about the right time. Start of the season, that's what we should be going off of right now.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, continue.
So, all right, let's go ahead and get our conspiracy hats on. We don't have the budget for tinfoil, I apologize. So, if there is no deal, all right, and they can't get what they want in Mesa, reserve land might be off the table. Apparently, that could take up to a decade to get the right lease agreement and everything. So we're just going to pretend that option isn't there. That wiped out like half of our sites. But there's no deal in place. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that the Board of Governors, while I do think their patience might be running thin after the debacle that was that Tempe election and how it was handled internally, I still do not think they're going to be willing to move on from this market for just a couple of reasons. Number one, they've already fought for almost 30 years. They know it's a big TV market. It's a big market. It might not be a big hockey market, but it is a big market. There's money to be made, and they know that. They're businessmen. All right? I don't think they're just going to give up. Secondly, another really good point that has been brought up by multiple sources, or local sources as well as outwardly, is some of these bigger cities that you might want to expand into, Houston. And while Craig's brought up some issues with potential Houston ownership, there could be an opportunity down the line for an expansion franchise there. Atlanta, X City, Y City, you could get probably like close to $1 billion for expansion fees. Everyone's going to love that $1 billion expansion. Why would you want to settle for a relocation, one of those premium markets? There's a couple of really good reasons to keep the team here, just cynically, just looking at financials. So, if there is a potential owner that's already been confirmed to be interested, per Craig's article that his source within their organization on the Suns branch got from a spokesperson, that Matt Ishbia is interested in having that conversation should the team be up for sale. It's October. There's no arena deal in sight, or it's not close enough. Do you, if you're Gary Bettman, make that call? And if Ishbia still is of the opinion that, yeah, I'm willing to do this, I want to keep the team here, I want to buy them, do you force out Alex Morello? I say yes, but I want to hear you talk because I've been taking over this episode.
I'm 100% with you. I do think that would, like, if at that point, yeah, you're right. If there is no concrete plan in place, if the let's say Mesa, you kind of put an example because there's several options in Mesa that they can go on private land. If none of that even comes close to concrete by October,
Mhm.
I do feel like the NHL Board of Governors they have no choice but to force that sale. It just takes, what was it, two thirds of the NHL owners to make a
Yep,
decision. I
two-thirds
have no
majority.
doubt. I have no doubt that that two-thirds NHL owners will be like, well, like if like Morello can't get something done, we seem like no, we can see that Matt Ishbia is willing to do this. That's a and move them into downtown Phoenix. That is where all the action happens. Yeah, sure, all the season ticket holders are in Scottsdale, Chandler, and Gilbert, but downtown Phoenix is where all the action happens. So yeah, you know what? It's gonna suck to have terrible sightlines for a little bit if you make that happen, but I'm sure Matt Ishbia would be like, you know what? Let's make some renovations. Let's figure out something else. But right
Because
now, they got a bigger arena to
mhm.
play in.
And I was saying when it was just a potential partnership, I was speculating. I'm like, look, would you rather temporarily play in front of like 10, 12,000 people with bad sight lines or in front of 5,000? Basic economics, you want the more seats. So I'm like, regardless, you want them there. And apparently, different projections that have just been thrown around, and I'm going to assume there's not too much behind this, around $200 million of renovations to retrofit it for hockey again. I think they took out the ice plant, so they have to redo that, or they downgraded the ice plant, or something with the ice plant, because I think they still sometimes have like Disney on Ice. So it's not fully incompatible, but it isn't currently compatible for hockey. So if Ishbia was interested, and there's been some small rumblings, but nothing concrete, that he could potentially be interested in just a brand new arena. And dating back to at least 2016, the former Phoenix mayor wanted to build a Suns and Coyotes arena in downtown Phoenix. And there is that nice little spot of land where, depending on what the D-backs do, they might go to Salt River, they might renovate where they're at Chase. There is land directly across the street that could potentially be up for sale that you could knock down. I think it's part of the old convention center, and put the new arena there.
Yes.
And then you could just do whatever you want with what footprint used to be. You could put other bars or whatever else there. Like, you could literally, for Ishbia, that would be nothing. Let's say the team sells for $800 million, because you got to make some sort of profit or return or whatever. $200 million, $1 billion. That's not nothing, but to a guy like Ishbia, it's not as much as you might think. For quick renovations, you would have between October and April to get all these contracts signed, get a timeline for construction, to tell the Rattlers and Mercury you got to go find alternate homes for a year, so that way you don't displace the Suns. You cannot displace the Suns. You cannot have construction go on that would interfere with the Phoenix Suns, anything they're doing. So you'd have that about 6 month span to get all that planned out, should they force a sale in October. And then whatever HBA's long-term plans are, if it's that new arena, if it's staying a footprint, if it's a bigger renovation to help fix some sight lines to make it a little bit better for hockey, don't know. I'm not mad Ishbia, all right? I am hopeful, because there is that confirmed report that he's at least interested in the conversation. That tells me, whether it's just because that's a good tax write-off for him and it's also goodwill, good press, or he does genuinely see the money to be made here, because there is money to be made here. He's interested. We just don't know to what degree. So,
can you imagine the sale being forced? Matt Ishbia does all that, and the Coyotes end up having a lot more of success in the ticket sales, not just more success overall. Can you imagine the idea that Coyotes fans were like calling Matt Ishbia the savior of the franchise, essentially?
I said that today. I literally responded today on Twitter like the one man that can save us. It was on that Phoenix reporter, the other organization, the Phoenix branch, and it's like, look, that is it. Like, Murillo has the money. All right, Tempe would not have engaged with the discussions as long as they did, or unanimously voted, if the money wasn't there. Every single one of those council members, I was watching it, I was live streaming it. Every one of those council members was talking about how extensive and exhaustive the process was. The money is there. I do, however, call into question his willingness to spend it, but I also can logically justify it by, let's say, trying to lower player salaries, like taking dead contracts. You're playing in front of 5,000 people, 4,600. You need to cut costs so your losses are not as high. That makes perfect logical sense. Those reports of complaints for lodging or travel or whatever, let's just say, like, players like to complain, but they weren't in violation, but they were scaled back from what they would normally be. Again, if you could shave off some money here, money there, lowers the amount you're losing, that's more money you have that you can put towards that arena. All that makes perfect sense. All right. And then, as been widely reported, he has a history of you buy a business, you tear it down to the absolute basic necessities, and then build it up. Like, he has a consistent track record of this. All of that logically makes sense. The one part that really ticked me off was the spending on the election, because if you mess up that campaign, all the money was wasted and you back to square one, which is where we're at right now. So it's like, that's where my questions and my concerns and my Matt Ishbia, please save us, comes in, because I'm like, everything else I could justify logically. It's just that one thing I can't, and that's what makes me doubt, which is why I'm like, he's got to get my trust back. He's got to prove me wrong. And if he does, great. I will sing your praises. All right. I don't hate you. I don't know you as a person. I just want you for your money. But keep my hockey team here, and I'll be just fine to continuing to waste copious amounts of my money on your hockey team.
Yeah, like I said, yeah. If Morello can make Mesa happen, I will 100%, be like, you know what? That's he was able to keep the Coyotes here, so no harm, no foul. We're all good.
Yeah, 100%.
But we still got more to get to on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to talk a little about a former Coyotes goaltender making his way to the Stanley Cup final very soon. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, a quick word from our sponsors on the show. And today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Are you tired of sacrificing comfort for style when it comes to your activewear? Introducing Birddogs, the game changer in athletic shorts. Picture this, premium shorts designed for maximum performance, combined with unparalleled comfort. Birddogs are here to revolutionize your workout routine with the unique built-in liner. These shorts offer the ultimate support and flexibility, ensuring you stay comfortable even during the most intense workouts. Here's the best part. Birddogs are more than just workout gear. They're versatile enough to take you from the gym to the street without skipping a beat. Designed with pockets that actually work, Birddogs give you ample space to store your essentials while you're on the move, and they're made of premium breathable fabric that keep you cool and dry throughout your activities, for the trails, the gym, or simply just lounging around. Birddogs are the shorts that you've been searching for. Order your pair of Birddogs today and join the thousands of satisfied customers who have made the switch. Visit birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL and enter the promo code LockedOnNHL and get a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. Birddogs, where style meets comfort and performance meets perfection. Get yours today and unleash your true potential. So let's finish off this episode, Matt, talking a little bit about Aiden Hill, a former Arizona Coyotes goaltender, spent so many years at the Tucson Roadrunners. One of the, and in my opinion, the best goaltender the Tucson Roadrunners had, is now on the verge of a Stanley Cup final appearance with the other desert team in the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's the best goalie they've had. I'm going to argue Ivan. He's also a little too U of A for my liking. But we can talk about Aiden Hill jumping into the playoffs against Edmonton. I have his stats brought up right here. And he has one loss so far. It was on May 10th, and he had, 29 saves, 879 save percentage. And that is the only save percentage that was sub 900. He had a shutout against Dallas on the 23rd. Oh, that was tonight. He had a shutout tonight. Let's see, 929 save percentage, 917, 950, 914, and then perfect, but he didn't start against Edmonton on the 8th, and then perfect on 4 shots against Edmonton on the 6th. So not shutouts, but there you go. And he's played well. Now I have been spoiled a little bit. I was watching a rival show and getting some takes. unintentionally on this, so I kind of have to like try to stay away from what I was hearing there. But I do have to agree, it's a small sample size. But Aiden Hill, serviceable, good backup, and this also is kind of consistent with what we saw in Arizona when he first came in. I think he started like it was 10 games in a row. He looked really good until he didn't, because he got figured out. And Rick Tocchet had that terrible thing where he needed to play one goalie all the time, constantly, until that goalie literally died, and then somehow it's the goalie's problem.
Anytime someone mentions that, I get so annoyed, because that was the year that I literally called the Arizona Coyotes goaltending squad the three-headed dragon, because you had Darcy Kemper, Antti Raanta, and Aiden Hill, who was just coming up from the Roadrunners, who the Roadrunners, I believe, were the top team in the AHL that previous year. Aiden Hill was a major reason because of that. I'm just like thinking in my head, I'm like Rick Tocchet, how do you screw this up? And he did.
Well, to be fair, Antti Raanta just couldn't stay healthy, and it's like he had that 1 year of like starter production, and other than that, he was decent when he played, and that was kind of like you're seeing in Carolina. He works very well as a backup, as the 1B, and it's a little less load on his body. But with Aiden Hill, it's like for a young goalie, I hate the mindset of just ride the hot hand, because Darcy played like 23 or whatever it was in a row, and they were going to have him play the last game of the season until Darcy was like, hey, yo, how about you let Calvin play? Even though it's probably like, hey, my knees don't work right now. I'd like a day off. But, at a playoff potential, but we're getting a little sidetracked, is Aiden Hill. He'll start off really hot, cool off a lot. We got a second-round pick for him to go to San Jose. San Jose moved on from him, and I went to Vegas. And also, like it was mentioned on the other show by Craig, he went into this as the third-string goaltender. It's like he is a backup goaltender, a very good 1B. I've never seen enough consistency for him to be a starter. That does not mean he can't be. I think he's 27. He's not old. He's not over the hill. But it's definitely that was stupid. But it's definitely like this is a serviceable goaltender that right now is riding a hot wave at the best possible time.
Right.
And I don't know when his contract's up. I'll have to double check that. But that's probably going to give him at least a decent little raise and an opportunity at a starting job anywhere else he ends up going. I know Vegas tends to rotate their goaltenders like it's nothing. So maybe it's in Vegas, maybe it's not. But kudos to him for how phenomenal he's played in this playoff so far. And I do hope he ends up getting a starting job.
100%. I think back to when I first started the Locked On show. So if I go dates back to early in 2021, it's been over 2 years since I started the show. One of the guests I had on in the first couple months was Kat Silverman. Anyone who's in Arizona knows that for a while Kat Silverman was kind of known as just the goalie expert of hockey. And she was here in Arizona, so we was like, hey, let's have her on the show. And I asked, hey, let's talk about the Coyotes goaltending situation at the time. And Kemper and Raanta were still healthy. Hill was at the top, was the number 3 because of taxi squad and stuff. I asked her about Aiden Hill, and she's like, yeah, he's good. And I feel like he will be pretty good, but I don't imagine him being the next great starter. She actually had a lot more praise, and you mentioned his name earlier, a lot more praise for Ivan Prosvetov and his potential to be a lot better. So with goaltenders take a long time to develop. So if anyone has any doubts about Ivan right now, don't worry about it. He's gonna I feel like he's gonna be great. But Kat mentioned that said the exact thing about Aiden Hill. Doesn't really see him being that next great. You're right. He is just riding the hot hand, and at the right time, as the Vegas Golden Knights are seem pretty clear on their way to their second Stanley Cup final appearance in just their however many years of existence.
I wish we had one. I'll take one. They should have been playing for the Cup in 2012. I know I'm getting sidetracked, but like those boys earned it. They earned it.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. That I remember that year. I was really I was living in San Jose at the time. I was really rooting for the Yotes. I was like, you guys, I want to see you ride this. Unfortunately, they lose to the team that, everyone hates. Well, they hated at the time in Los
We
Angeles.
don't talk about the team that shall not be named on this show. That team can burn or break off into the ocean with the rest of California, allegedly.
Sure. But I'm glad for Aiden Hill. I, I, I will keep to myself my thoughts on on him as a person. But he is a good goaltender, right? And he's riding that hot wave, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, good goalie, playing well right now. If we're taking personal shots, one game my wife and I went to, and our relationship was pretty early. He did that stupid like water bottle on the hair thing, and she was like eating it up, and I'm like, "Hey yo, I'm right here. Screw this toad looking guy." And there's my final thoughts. Aiden Hill is a pretty good toad.
Yeah. I've just heard enough stories, and like I said, I'll keep that to myself. But any final thoughts before we close things off?
That's all I got.
Anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe. If you have yet to already, you can find us on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts, including on the Sirius XM radio app. Just search Locked On Coyotes. We're also on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Locked On Coyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back. Or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. And just a heads up, everyone, that coming up later this week, this Friday, late morning, early afternoon, we will be releasing our next edition of the Grow the Game series. We'll be talking of Colin Morrison of Arizona Warrior Hockey Charities. It's going to be a great episode, so you'll definitely want to tune in. Once again, it's coming up this Friday. But anyways, thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.